All right. Live on the slate, all muted.
Remember to bring up articles after winning.
Yeah, I have the election results. I'll also pull up the one that I saw that I mentioned in them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 20. Do that, Russell. Much here. All righty, getting ready here. One more time. Unmuting.
And welcome to Candidates Corner on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television, a production of the Libertarian Party and Libertarian National Committee. Whitney Billiams serving as chair. As always, tonight, John Gapso on the big board. He'll give us the newspaper articles, the infographics, the entertainment, the audio-visual aids to lighten up our show. I'm your host, Pat Ford, and we're going to dispel with the normal, if you will, introduction to our show, because tonight's a celebration. It's a celebration, if you will, in the immediate sense for our very special guest tonight, but it's also a celebration, if you will, of the hard work that candidates, win or lose, invested in this latest election cycle. So let me get right to it. Joining us for the first time since her landmark election to the City Council, the great burg, if you will, of North Adams, Massachusetts, is Miss Ashley Shade. Ashley, welcome back to Candidates Corner.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be back, and it's great to bring a win home with me.
Excellent. We waxed quite poetic tonight of our campaign coverage that was run by Kara so well. 3 hours. Of course, John was out there 3 hours straight, providing the same type of support that he's doing tonight. But I want to relive that for a second. Were you shocked, surprised, pleasantly surprised, knowing that you had invested countless hours alongside of your team, recognizing that effort had borne fruit?
Yeah, it was a combination of a lot of feelings. The number one feeling was, thank God the election is finally over. And so, all that work really paid off. It didn't sink at first. It took a couple of hours for me to realize, like, whoa, I actually did it. We actually won. We actually got elected. And so, my team was absolutely amazing. I had such a great team of people working with me, and this was our win. This was a win for us. It was not just an Ashley Shade win. I do not take credit for this win. This was a team win. This was everybody who was on my team, everybody who contributed, everybody who shared, our page, everybody who donated. This was a win for all of us, and this was a win for liberty. And I'm honored to have the ability to serve my community and represent libertarian values as an elected official.
Now, I want to get obviously into the nuts and bolts, if you will, of how you got, across the finish line. And by the way, tonight will be an endless stream of campaign and sports cliches. Just got it. Sorry, folks. But what was remarkable about your election, and this is very important to me personally, was the sense of optimism. In most of your social media, there's a constant theme of love and kindness. And I want to reflect on that for a second, because when you're in the bubble, and pretty much everyone listening to this show tonight or in the future is probably in the bubble. We're all involved in electoral politics at some level, and it's personal. And a lot of folks have spent a lot of years, yourself included, if you will, fighting duopoly, fighting virtually every aspect of government voter suppression, oppression, ballot access, every aspect of the system being brought to bear against the success that you enjoyed this week. And it's very easy for us to get bitter and cynical. And in fact, quite honestly, I don't blame anyone. But I'm wondering, when you get outside of this bubble that I call, this little ecosystem we call the Libertarian Party and electoral politics in general, I have found, particularly after the events of the last 2 years, that people are disgusted by infighting. They're revolted by the sort of hate speech that has become the speech du jour. What we sometimes celebrate in the bubble as the "we show them" moment, where we win some obscure battle of wills, regular voters, again, just turn away when they see that. What role do you think your endless enthusiasm and optimism played in your success?
Yeah, I think it was the key to winning. We ran a campaign on the idea of compassion, education, and love. And, when it comes down to the political world right now, there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of mudslinging. There's a lot of us versus them. But I didn't want to be that candidate. I want to represent my community. I want to be a part of my community, and I want to help find libertarian-oriented solutions to the problems people are facing. The strategy that we used was to stay positive in everything. And it worked really well because the two-party system, the duopoly, they are already the best in the world at being negative. We can't beat them at their own game.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can do is beat them at kindness. And we can show people that through love, they can find liberty and freedom. And that can be a good thing, not a bad thing, as the media and the duopoly try to make it play. Republicans and Democrats will convince you that everybody else is evil and that they are the only ones that can protect you. When we all know that liberty is the true way and that individuals deserve to have the right to make their own decisions in life as long as they aren't hurting other people. And so by sticking with a positive message and a solutions-oriented message, looking at ways as a libertarian, how can we find solutions to these problems that the community faces in a libertarian way, while also staying out of the mudslinging, staying out of the blame game? We all know the government sucks. The people know the government sucks. This is not new. So just by saying, hey, the government sucks over and over again, it's not really going to get you anywhere. But if you say, hey, the government is completely inefficient, but there are other ways to solve problems that don't involve raising your taxes, that don't involve more interference and regulation, but less regulation, and an ability for you to live your lives with less interference, and we promote those solutions and we do so in a positive way, it's a winning strategy, and it's something that the R's and D's don't do because they're constantly battling about who's worse.
I would imagine, I've spent quality time in northwestern Massachusetts, and it's a starkly beautiful part of the country. Mm-hmm. You're near the Appalachian Trail. You're amongst a variety of communities that go back literally in the days of the Revolution. You're facing a lot of the challenges that the Rust Belt faced, and Pittsfield, North Adams, that whole stretch of if you will, of extreme Western Massachusetts. I'm not talking Springfield. People think Springfield's Western Massachusetts. Newsflash: you got a couple days drive west of Springfield to get to the Berkshires. That's an area that has seen a tremendous amount of economic disruption. Companies like General Electric and others had large presences there. So you've got the disappointment shared by many people who had seen a life in factories and in the industrialization of America seen that go away. And at the same time, simultaneously, I say with a smile and tongue planted firmly in cheek that you've got some of the most elitist, liberal, beautiful people in America in Western Massachusetts. It's an odd dichotomy, yet there we are. So for many folks, and this is a mantra here on the show, I would imagine not only are you the first Libertarian council member, but you might be amongst some of the first libertarians they've ever met. What were some of the questions and challenges you got about your party affiliation?
Yeah, so my party affiliation had come up in the past, being the chair of the Libertarian Party of Massachusetts and being involved. It's very well known that I'm a libertarian, and this was a municipal race where it was a nonpartisan race. Nobody had political affiliation on the ballot, but it was well known that I'm the chair of the state party, that I'm very active and involved in the LP. And I think for most people, what they cared about was not what party I was in. They wanted to know what I was going to do to help the city and help the people. And when it comes to local politics, that matters so much more than the party that you're affiliated with, especially when you have municipal elections that are nonpartisan. They don't want to hear about your party. They want to hear about your solutions, your ideas. What can you do? How can you help people? And so, by talking about libertarian oriented solutions like reducing the license requirements for small businesses, by making the process easier for them to open a new business in our downtown, by finding ways of getting money to fix things without raising taxes, by talking about the actual issues and providing solutions that provide more freedom, I was able to spread a libertarian message, do so in a positive way, and still come across as a sane, normal person. A lot of times at the local level, when you're running for local office, nobody cares when you say taxation is theft or end the Fed. People don't care about that at the local level. People are struggling with their day-to-day lives. They want to know how things are going to get fixed. They want to know that their water is working properly in the city. They want to know that they can drink their water. They want to know that they can get to work and pay their bills. They want to know that they can afford their homes and be able to live in the community. Those are, the everyday problems of the average person. And at the local level, we have the ability to affect how government works in people's regular day-to-day lives. If you take a look at your city charters and your city ordinances and the different laws and things that are on the books, those affect your day-to-day life so much more than what the federal government does on a regular basis. And those issues affect the people in your community more. So by focusing on libertarian-oriented solutions to help reduce government interference in their lives, that's really the key. And so by providing solutions and being positive about issues and helping people understand how the system works a little better, that's where we were able to have success. And we did a great job at messaging that out to people. We did a great job of explaining, where our positions were and talking about things that people don't talk about, like mental health and how important mental health access is. And so I'm honored to have gotten the chance to be elected, and I'm honored to be able to represent libertarian oriented solutions.
Now, we're going to talk and reflect on some of the issues that are the mainstay of this show, because, what we hope is in the coming days, weeks, months, tonight, that we'll glean some tips and some advice for other candidates to increase the odds of their success. And that's really one of the prime purposes of the show, as well as to give people an opportunity, very often for the first time, to meet the public. And here's the key. This is certainly not the first time Ashley Shade has engaged in some type of forum to meet with the public. And that brings up the most sentient issue of all, which is, and we talked about this before, but it's important you highlight it as, with this aura of success, your involvement in the community. No one had to be introduced to Miss Ashley Shade in the town of North Adams, did they? You were certainly no new figure on both in terms of leadership, in terms of mentoring, in terms of you have a reputation as an activist. Talk about some of the organizations that you've been involved in over the last few years.
Yeah, so I kind of started getting involved back in 2017 when I ran for office. I ran for city council the first time. and I wasn't elected. But after that happened, I started getting involved. I was selected to be a part of the North Adams Human Services Commission, so I was able to get onto a commission and affect change there and be a part of things, learn how things operated. From there, I was able to get involved in other types of activism. I got involved in Berkshire Pride and other groups that focused on LGBTQ or GSM activism. Um, I currently serve on the board of directors of the Berkshire Stonewall Community Coalition. I was actually just elected president of the board last weekend, so I now am president of that board, and we are a 501, a full nonprofit that works for the LGBTQ community. So I've been able to, over the past few years, be a voice in the community for activism and issues that are important to me, and be able to publicly display those and really push for change and push for inclusion for people. I also served on the Inclusivity, Diversity, Equity, and Access group through the city of North Adams as well, where we put together a committee that would teach the current council at that time how their legislation affects different community groups, and how understanding how you vote can affect different people's lives in different ways, and providing that type of training and really being a voice for people who don't typically have a seat at the table. So that's something that's really important to me, and that is something that should be important to everybody. When government works, when they try to pass a law and they don't understand how it affects people, that's a huge problem. And a lot of people are only trying to pass laws that represent people like them and their interests, and not thinking about, well, it's going to affect other communities differently. And it's important that when you represent somebody in office, you represent everybody in your community. You represent all of your constituents, not just your party or not just an individual group of donors. You represent your constituents. You are a servant to the public. You are not there to tell them how to live. You are there to serve them and their interests. And so I think that's lost among a lot of politicians, and that was the other important part of the campaign. We are here to serve. I am here to serve the community. I'm not here to tell other people how to live their lives. And that's what public service is supposed to be. That's what elected officials are supposed to be. Representatives and servants, not dictators.
Excellent. Folks, if you're just joining us, Ms. Ashley Shade, the freshly minted, newly elected town council person for is it a village or a city of North Adams?
City of North Adams. City
of North Adams is joining us fresh off her electoral victory. And we're focusing on just kind of different aspects of the campaign. You'll see in a minute or two, on the Chiron, as the media folks say, you'll see a link to her website. One of the things we'll talk about later in the show is not just how we got somebody elected, how we keep them elected. And one of the ways that we keep them elected is we ask people to invest in success. And by investing in success, I mean, quite frankly, making a few campaign donations. And we'll talk about the importance of mounting, if you will. And, in the olden days, they called it a machine. I call it outreach. Not only is it important to obviously have a seat at the table, as Ashley does now, but also, quite frankly, find ways to connect with the public on an ongoing way to keep that seat. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But if we get back to the election, the mechanics of this are critical. And we're going to actually work this time backwards in time. One of the issues that's so important, and Kara in her campaign training stresses this all the time, is the get out the vote effort. What was the last couple of days like? Now you're facing multiple people, so running for a wide open at-large council seat. What are some of the issues that you ran into in that last week of the election, and how did you manage your GoTV, get out the vote effort?
Yeah, the last week of the election was very difficult. I am very proud of my team. My team helped me out a lot. I actually had some family issues come up that last week that prevented me from doing certain things that I had wanted to do. But we had a plan going in and we executed. We did a lot of phone banking and contacting people. We dropped over 3,000 pieces of literature out people's doors to let them know who we were and what our positions were and what we were doing. So we really used that last week to connect with as many people as possible. We ran advertising on social media to make sure that people were seeing us, seeing our positions, seeing the website, so they could read more in depth on our positions and what we were trying to accomplish. And it worked. And I think that last week was really, really important for us. Um, so the team again did an amazing job in supporting me as a candidate and helping me get that last push out. Um, and I couldn't be more proud of us. We executed and we made it happen. And again, I'm going to say we a lot. It's not just my victory. It's not I. It's us. It was our team. It was the people who were a part of this. We worked our asses off. We worked very hard, and we got in front of people, and it showed, and it worked. And I couldn't be more proud.
You talk about tools like phone banking. Literally, the way phone banking is set up, anyone in the country, and again, we're going to focus on positivity tonight. There are folks out there who are frustrated with certain ongoing events within the Libertarian Party, particularly the role that this overwhelming sense takes place in the world of social media. So how critical was it to get the people involved and the resources in place to engage in phone banking? And is it fair to say that anyone in the country, anywhere, can participate in phone banking for a candidate, and a Libertarian Party candidate they support anywhere? How critical was that chemistry there?
Yeah, it's really important to get out ahead of things. Build your team early, announce early, put out press releases. The day I announced, I made a video on social media and put out a press release. The newspapers picked up the press release and wrote an article in the paper about it because we told them that we were announcing. Having that communication, it costs $0 to write a press release. It costs $0 to contact people and let them know, hey, I'm running. Would you be able to donate and help support the campaign? Would you be able to throw a few dollars down to help support the efforts? It's so important to get out ahead of things. And one of the great things about what we did is within the first 33 days that I announced, we had raised $5,000 for this campaign. And we did so by really, talking to everybody that we knew and asking for small donations. But the way I started is essentially I already had my team in place before I announced. So when I had made the announcement, the team was ready to go. I was able to start doing interviews. I was able to start talking to different people and getting it out there that I was running for office. And it got people excited. This was a winnable race. We saw it as a winnable race, a race that had 9 at-large seats. And we really focused on getting our money done ahead of time. We raised $5,000 within the first 33 days. That was our original fundraising goal because no city council candidate here in North Adams had ever spent more than $5,000.
Right.
So that was our original goal, and we hit it in the first 33 days. And then we did a few more fundraisers just to have extra money for the things that we needed, like having good phone banking software, like having the software that we needed and all of the pamphlets that we needed for literature drops to make sure that if we needed extra advertising money due to COVID restrictions, that it was there. Luckily, these restrictions got less and less, and we were able to be on the ground a lot more. But just in case those precautions were there, we raised extra money to make sure that if we needed to hit advertising in different ways harder, we had the funding to do that. By the time June came around, I didn't have to ask people for any more money. By the 6th day of June, we set a goal to raise an extra $1,700 in June. We raised it in 6 days. And after that, I didn't have to do any fundraising. I didn't have to go to people and ask for money because we had all the campaign finances that we needed to be successful in this campaign. And so having that out of the way early was really beneficial. And being able to use that money to, again, do the phone banking, get people out there, knocking the doors, getting the name out there into the community was huge. And again, my team was a huge part of that, and they really helped make all of this happen.
And you literally got donations from around the country, didn't you?
Yes. Yes. We had donations from everywhere, in this country. I mean, we had donations from here in Massachusetts, from Texas and Colorado and California and Nebraska and Ohio, Indiana, Florida. I don't know exactly how many states it was, but I'm pretty sure it was 35 or 40 different states where people donated and put money into this campaign. And we had, over 100 different people donate money to the campaign. We had a lot of small donations. We had a lot of repeating donations. There were people who were willing to give us $10 every month. And that was perfect because it allowed us to bring in more money as we were going along. So, it was great. We did a national fundraising campaign, and we were able to raise the money that we needed in a big way. And I couldn't be more thankful to all of the people out there who did make donations, who supported the campaign, and really believed in what we were trying to do. And that was spread a message of love and liberty.
This is the section of the show that's officially sponsored by Captain Obvious. I routinely run into Libertarian candidates, and I say this with a smile because I know that their intentions are good, but they don't want to fundraise. They don't want to set up a campaign team. And again, I get their intentions. They don't want to ask for money from people. But talk to me about the sense of investment people had once they actually contributed to your campaign and what that meant both to the spirit of the campaign and their willingness to support and spread your message.
Yeah, people are attached to their money. They have to work hard to earn that. And if they're willing to part with a few dollars to help you, that means they may be willing to help you in other ways too, like sharing your social media posts, helping you get the word out, making a few phone calls for you. There's all kinds of ways that people can volunteer and help that isn't money related, but people who are willing to invest in your campaign, that really means that they believe in what you're saying and what you're trying to do. And that's really important, having that type of investment, because again, we all work very hard for our income. It's not something that most of us get for free. And so people willing to put money in to say, yes, I believe in this. I back that. I believe in this person. I believe in this message. To me, that was so important. And to have so many different people who believed in what we were doing and what we were saying, and believed in me and my ability to do this, and believed in our team. To me, that was such a beautiful thing, and I am so honored and grateful for everybody who supported us and was a part of it.
The other part, of course, is the team, and let's talk about that a little bit. Folks, again, if you're just joining us, Ashley Shade is on the line on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television. We're talking about her successful campaign. I like to refer to Ashley as a multi-year overnight success. People are sort of waking up in Western Massachusetts to the impact of her success. At the same time, anyone in the party knows that this has been an effort that's been put in place for a number of years, starting with, in a sense, her first campaign, which brought about a real understanding of what it would take to be successful. So the other thing that I get from folks is, oh, I don't know, I don't need a campaign manager. I'll run my own campaign. Yours, the object lesson number 150 from your campaign is the fact that you had people early on in roles ready to go. You had a well-defined campaign structure. If you could talk about some of those roles, and I know it's impossible to name everybody. There's a lot of people who are involved in your campaign. Some boots on the ground, some far away. So no harm, no foul here. If we forget to mention the name, you all know who you are, and most of us know who you are. But talk about some of the individuals and the roles they played, and why that's so important for a successful local campaign effort.
Yeah, absolutely. It all started with my campaign manager, Michael Burns. He was here in North Adams. He lives here in North Adams, and he was here on the ground to help me with a lot of things. Michael's a great, amazing strategist when it comes to libertarian policy and libertarian things. To have somebody with that strategy background and knowledge was instrumental in making decisions and really getting things done. We put together an absolutely amazing social media team. It started with Derek Britton out here in Massachusetts, and then Rachel Torrance took over for Derek when he couldn't continue. And we had some great people who worked as deputies under our directors, people like Dan Lewis and Elizabeth Cochliard, who really stepped up and helped manage our social media on different platforms and really helped us get that message out in so many different ways, and who worked together so well and filled in when one person couldn't do it. So having, a team of people that help work with your message and learn, how you message and understand the nuance of keeping on brand and keeping with a message of love. That was so important to us. We had, again, we had so many amazing volunteers. I had Darren Pollock from Texas helping out with policy. He did such a great job. And he had a team of people. Each one of our teams had a team. Our policy team, we had Jenny out in Iowa helping out Darren and several other people who jumped in here and there. We had Ryan Jenkins from Tennessee, young activist who came in and helped the campaign for several months. And we had people, all over this country being a part of this. Chris Milinardi out of California, my treasurer, he did a great job keeping records and making sure that we were filing things on time because, that's super important to make sure
it absolutely is. You can't,
the
campaign, we had a LP event this past week in New York. And one of the mentioned by Chrissy Witcher was there's two people who go to jail in a campaign. You, the candidate, and who? The treasurer. By the way, she made a phenomenal presentation. I'm not sure if that's on tape, but if you get a chance to see her in person, she's a must watch. Her and Caitlin Clover, of course. How many volunteers do you think overall participated in the campaign? Do you have any ballpark number?
Yeah, throughout the comings and goings of the campaign, we had over 32 different volunteers, different people
Wow.
who were a part of what we did. I had some people who were local to North Adams who were helping me out with different things. And then I had people from all over the country who wanted to be a part of it, who wanted to see a campaign operate properly, with structure and organization, to see what that would be like. My campaign I had two goals with my campaign. The first was obviously to win. And the second was for my campaign to be a training ground for other people who wanted to learn more about how a campaign is supposed to work. So we brought in a lot of volunteers and put them in positions they had never been in before and taught them how to do those jobs. So that way they can go back to their own communities and either run their own campaigns or volunteer for campaigns where they are and be able to help make those happen. And again, we had so many incredible people who were really a part of what we did. And I'm so extremely grateful to each and every one of them.
Right. And let's focus on that for a second. Over 30 volunteers, in addition to a hardworking candidate, working on a local town council election. And folks, I know everyone can't do that. And I know circumstances don't always allow for that. But wow, that's the type of work, the kind of money, the kind of work we're talking about for electoral office these days is staggering. Again, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000+ $1,000 for a small city in northwestern Massachusetts, but that's what it took. Having 30+ volunteers, again, not everyone could do that, but that's what it took. In a very large sense, and I'll just throw this out there. We all know life ain't fair, right? Well, libertarians, we have to work 2, 3, 4 times as hard as the establishment parties to get things done. And that's what happened here. Organization, money, volunteers. It sounds so simple. It sounds so cliched. We know how much effort went into it, but somehow coming to scale with a sophisticated campaign like this, even for quote unquote local office, is just how it's going to fly now, folks. The duopoly has enormous resources, both on the state of Massachusetts level, particularly the Democratic Party, and they leave no stone unturned, whether there was a D or an L or an R on the ballot or not. Everybody knows. And they want control of the city coffers that Miss Ashley Shade now has a seat at the table. The sunlight, of course, is right. What's the line? It's the ultimate purifier. Well, guess what? Sunshine and sunlight is now at the table in North Adams, Massachusetts. Now, another remarkable aspect of your campaign was your ability to create alliances and coalitions and friends and stuff like that. And that's a controversial subject these days in the Libertarian Party. I'm a huge believer in coalitions. Talk about some of the working relationships that you've been able to develop, not only just for the success of the campaign, but quite frankly, your ability to succeed going forward as a town council person.
Yeah, absolutely. Through the activism that I do in the community already, through the GSM activism that I do, I was already well known in the community. And so people were looking at me as a candidate a little differently than they would look at somebody else because they knew who I was. And I was able to gain support of people, in the city. I was able to gain support of people who were already on the city council who wanted to work with me because they had seen me in action. They'd seen me do work in my community and seen me help with different aspects of things. And so they were really excited to work with me. We had a council seat open up in June because somebody moved away and resigned, and I put my name in. And the way it worked back then is that the city council would decide who fills the seat rather than having an election. That's what happens when we have a vacancy. So the current council votes on who the next person is. Now, there was a person who finished 11th in the previous election, myself, and one other person who had put the paper in. And typically, what they do is they will vote for whoever had the highest votes from the last election, which is what ended up happening. That person got the seat. But it was a 5-3 vote. I got 3 city councilors to say I was the better candidate and that I should have been the one chosen at that time to fill that seat. And that just goes to show that when you work with people in your community and you work hard to build relationships with people, it goes a long way. And not only that, but I was able to get endorsed by organizations that typically would not endorse libertarian candidates. I was able to get an endorsement from the LPAC, which was founded as the Lesbian PAC, and that's an organization that does LGBTQ activism as well. And they were happy to endorse me based on my activism there, even though I'm a libertarian and answered that I don't support raising the minimum wage and I don't support different aspects of what they do. I was able to get an endorsement from the Massachusetts Women's Political Caucus, which is a group out here in Massachusetts that supports women running for office. And I was able to, in the last week of the election, get an endorsement from the local newspaper. I was included as one of the 9 people that they endorsed for city council, which was very surprising to me because most newspapers won't ever endorse a libertarian, but it happened, and it was great. It was an honor to do that, and I think part of that is because I have a great relationship with the press in my local area. I have done activism. We've worked together. I've been able to, be involved, help them with stories. And they've come to me as an expert in certain fields because of the activism that I do. And so by building those relationships with the people there, they were more than happy to cover me and endorse me. And even after the election, there are articles still coming out about the historical election in North Adams. And so,
right. And this is right. There's 2 critical points here. Again, Captain Obvious sponsored. Number one, You mentioned early on in our conversation tonight about putting out a press release.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to present to the New York Libertarians, and this wasn't the first time you've asked for press coverage, and it
No.
certainly won't be the last. But there's an old sports cliche about you can't score goals if you don't take the shot, and how important it is to put together a professional presentation to the media at all times, knowing that you're going to have to, again, create a value proposition, an interest level, an issues level, in order to get that coverage. But if we simply, as libertarians, sit back and say, oh, the media, they won't cover us. Well, newsflash. Number one, the media sees that and just, it's beyond awkward. It's as cringy as it gets. Number two, they're not coming if you don't invite them. And that's not a relationship that's built overnight. Simply because you show up, the media isn't going to drop what they're doing and come to you. The second point is, and again, here we go, right? There aren't enough libertarians in the world to elect you or any other libertarian candidate if you don't get folks to vote alongside of them, are there? We don't have that many libertarians, particularly in northwestern Massachusetts. You have to, without if you will, sacrificing your principles, which you don't. You have to craft an appeal to those folks by creating common grounds. And that's what's happened here, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And on the scale of political, whatever, I consider myself somewhere between a classical liberal and a minarchist. I do believe that a government is there to function in some way. I just think it should be a way that doesn't restrict upon individuals' rights to live their lives, and as long as they're not hurting people. And so, part of the job when you're running for office is to tell people how you intend to govern. And talking about issues on the state or federal level wasn't going to help me in North Adams because people are concerned about what's happening in our city. They don't care about what's happening in Boston or Washington, D.C. or anywhere else in the country. They care about what's happening in their backyard. They care about the sewer problems that we're facing. They care about our fire hydrants. That a fifth of the city's fire hydrants earlier this year did not work. That was something that they cared about. What did I care about? I cared about getting these problems fixed. When these cities are collecting our tax money illegally, but they still collect our tax money, and they don't use it properly to fix these types of things like they're supposed to, there's got to be someone there to hold things accountable. And that's, where we as libertarians can come in and make sure that that happens. I don't want there to be theft, but if it's going to happen and one libertarian's not going to make it not happen, if it's going to happen, I at least want the money to be going to the proper places and for it to be accountable for things for the people, to make sure that we are reinvesting back into North Adams. As much as I would love for there to be no taxes, I know that that's not going to happen by myself. I need you all to get elected to help me do that. So until you do, I'm just going to make sure that it's being done responsibly in my community.
Excellent. The part of the conversation that I've been looking forward to all week, because I see this as a critical step in the evolution of the Libertarian Party. This past week we had successes around the nation. Pennsylvania, as always, knocked it out of the park. With getting all sorts of folks elected at all sorts of levels, not just town auditors, but mayors, town council people. Again, just a wonderful story. But at the same time, now we find ourselves, I should say, in the interesting position of we don't use the word governing. I always say stewarding, but we find ourselves in a decision-making capacity in communities around the nation, which means we have to now think in a manner that we've only dreamed of, which is, you've gotten elected. How do we, as a Libertarian Party, as party members around the nation, support you in a way to continue your success and funding outreach to members of your community, fostering communications, all of those things. And part of that is the ongoing effort to raise funds. So I think we're going to put up in a second how folks can can donate to you. And again, as I like to say, not so much donate, but invest in your success. Because investing in your success and the other candidates who've been elected, as well as continuing to what's bring us to the next level, where all of a sudden around this nation, and particularly in the city of North Adams, which faces the challenges that so many brick and mortar industrialized cities face, all right, is going to be our biggest proof of concept. We need Ashley Shade to be talked about, not just as a congratulations to a new candidate, which is wonderful, but also we want people now to begin to say, wow, all right, spread the story of Ashley Shade's success in stewarding the resources of North Adams. So now you find yourself in a sense, the old world team would be a machine. I don't like that term. It's pejorative at this point in history. But at a certain point, what kind of steps are you going to take, and what support do you need to continue that success in communicating with the people of North Adams?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely helps to have financial contributions, so donating and putting those contributions down are certainly the first step, building that funding so that messaging can get out. But the next step is really just joining the team, being willing to help do things. When we have successes, we need to promote them better. We need to have positive libertarian messaging. We can't just be, well, again, everything's terrible, the government is terrible. We already know that. We know that. Who are we talking to when we say that? We're talking to us. The people who are out there wanting to hear things in their day-to-day lives want to know, if we elect libertarians, how are libertarian ideas going to help us in our day-to-day lives? How are libertarian solutions going to work to make things better in our communities? That's the message we need to do. We need to focus on solution-oriented messaging that is positive in nature. Because again, the D's and R's have a monopoly on the negativity. They're going to beat us at it, and they have a hell of a lot more money to message it. And so ours is just going to get drowned out, and nobody's going to pay attention. But if we're saying something different, like talking about love and compassion and helping people through liberty and providing liberty-oriented solutions, like reducing licensing requirements or getting rid of licensing requirements and make it easier for people to park on the street, and these small things that interfere with people's day-to-day lives, if we can focus on solving those problems, then we can show people that not only can libertarians govern, but that liberty helps make their lives better. And then when we run for higher offices, people are going to trust us because we've built those relationships and we've proved to people that we do have the ability to govern without just being like, oh, we're just going to shut everything down and walk away. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't work for most of America. And so we do have to be able to do the job, but do so in a way that prevents taxes from being raised, that makes life easier on the people of our communities. And that's really the key. It's about staying positive with kindness and compassion and love. And it's really about pushing a message of how we can use liberty-minded and oriented solutions to better the lives of the people in our own communities. And it's about being out there and being involved in your own community. Let people get to know who you are. Be a positive influence in the community. If you're a positive person, more people are going to be willing to vote for you. More people are going to be willing to give you a chance. Nobody wants to work with a jerk. People want to work with people they can actually have conversations with, people who listen, people who want to actually fix things. And so that's what we really need to get to.
That's wonderful. We're going to give you the opportunity to do what we lovingly refer to here as shameless self-promotion. But, a heartfelt congratulations on all your efforts. This is, again, you're a multi-year overnight success, right? You're getting, there's a lot of acclamation coming from a lot of different quarters, but culmination of work, effort, as you mentioned, not just by yourself, by a lot of other people. But again, folks, let's just sort of, if I can approach the bench, Your Honor, and provide a synopsis and attest to intensive planning, upfront efforts, running, in this case, at least once, knowing that you may or may not succeed the first time, learning what works in your community from those efforts, intense personal connections with people in the community as well as organizations in the community, a willingness to develop coalitions, because we understand, again, that there aren't enough libertarians out there, sadly. Despite the fact that we're right, there aren't enough libertarians out there to single-handedly elect people to office. And of course, the ultimate gotcha is the do-re-mi, the money, being willing to ask for money from people so that you can fund an organization that's geared for success in the new realities of American politics. And those new realities, for all of the things I just mentioned, can be kind of ugly. But we have to, as they say, adapt, improvise, and overcome, because we have no other choice. We simply cannot stand by and allow the omnipotent state to continue to increase their domination over our day-to-day lives. And your success means that at least in one corner of Northwestern Massachusetts, there's a voice now, a seat at the table, someone who is not going to take bleep from anyone. That's for damn sure. I know that. All right. And lead us and set a bar in Western Massachusetts that only has the potential to grow across the entire Commonwealth. And people will look to these examples, and you and Karen and the hundreds of people who were elected and are currently serving in some type of stewardship opportunity for their community. It's a win-win-win. And if I could just close off by turning the mic over to you, let's take a moment and savor the wins. For the people who were involved in your campaign, for the people who are involved in other winning campaigns, and also, just as importantly, for the folks that didn't quite win this time, recognizing that their efforts, that everything they did was political in nature, and that everything they did reverberated throughout their community, that everything they did impacted people's lives in ways they may not ever know. Let's celebrate all of that right now. And my appeal to the libertarian community at large, whoever's listening, and maybe if you could spread that message of peace and love and kindness, is to take that from the election, not the bitterness, not the cynicism, not seemingly the imperfections of all of us that we all share. Let's take the success and run with it. Ashley, if you could tell folks how they can reach you, if you could tell folks how they can support you, and also how they can support other candidates like yourself who may be on not quite there yet, but have the potential to enjoy that same amazing success you did.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I saw a couple questions I want to answer real quick. I saw
Sure.
Michael ask when my term starts, January 1. Yes, I get sworn in January. And I saw another comment from somebody about needing Ashley in New Jersey. I was actually born in New Jersey, and I live in Massachusetts. I moved here when I was young. So New Jersey is still a place in my heart.
Where in Jersey? Where in Jersey? Wait a minute, where in Jersey?
I was born in Mount Holly and lived in Browns Mills, New Jersey.
There you go. I'm from Jersey too. Everybody and everything that matters had some connection to New Jersey. But continue, please.
Yes. So absolutely, we definitely need to keep the momentum going. So how do we do that? We continue with this positive messaging, compassion, education, and love. It's more than just a motto. It's about being actively involved in your community, wanting to actually help people solve problems, and helping them find liberty in the process, helping them understand they don't need the government to solve all their problems. We, as individuals, can help people solve those problems without government, without adding to our government, without more regulations. That's so important. So it really comes down to that positive message and building those connections with people in your community. How can you help candidates? Donate to their campaigns first and foremost. Make a financial investment in somebody you believe in. Go make a donation. If you believe in what we're saying tonight, please, ashleyshade.com/donate. Please send a few dollars our way. We will use it to continue to talk about compassion, education, and love as the forefront of what we do, and using liberty to solve problems, right? You can help your local candidates. Go to an affiliate meeting. Go talk to your state committees. Find out what's happening in your local areas. We are about to be coming up into 2020 where the elections will go from less municipal and more statewide races. And we are going to need people to help candidates win elections. And those types of campaigns need more money and more volunteers than any type of campaign. So it's really important that if you find a candidate who you believe in their message, you believe in what they're trying to do, show up and be there for them. Make some phone calls, send some emails, share their social media. Even just helping them get the message out there is a huge help. So just try to be a part of it as much as you can. And of course, remember the brightest flame of liberty is love. And through love, we can light the path towards freedom for everybody. And we can't do that in the darkness, and we can't do that with negativity because people are stubborn. And if you push them, they push back. But if you hold their hand and walk them down the road and you show them kindness and love, they're more likely to follow you. And when they see liberty at the end of the tunnel, they're not going to ever want to go back. So love people and be out in your community and help people. Put people first, people above politics. That is so important. And just spread love and kindness and liberty everywhere you go.
Excellent. Well, Ashley, again, thanks for joining us. I know you've got a hectic schedule getting ready. You're also the chair of the Libertarian Party of Massachusetts, and you've got a lot of work on your plate. But it's wonderful to share success. Folks, you've been listening to Candidates Corner on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television, a production of the Libertarian Party and Libertarian National Committee. Whitney Bilyeu serving as chair. As always, John Gapso on the big board, sharing the infographics, the audio visual aids, the entertainment, livening up the conversation. There's so many lessons to take away from tonight. I would ask folks to take a moment, if you enjoyed tonight's presentation, share it with your friends and affiliates, because what Ashley was able to display for us, it was in a sense the roadmap that led to her electoral success. And too many lessons from this for just one viewing, one observation. You take that to your home affiliate. If you're a candidate thinking about running for office, reach out to Ashley, reach out to people like Kara Schultz and Apollo, and talk to them, sound ideas off. We've got less than a year to go for the midterms. How do we capitalize on the success and the hard work enjoyed by so many over the last few weeks that, again, was a reflection of months and sometimes years of hard work? Folks, it's time. We share one unique advantage over the other political parties, and that's simple. We're right. Let's get to work. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you Monday night. Not sure who's going to be on yet. Folks, if you are a candidate and you're running for office, please reach out to me, Pat Ford. You can find me everywhere. pat.ford@lp.org is my current LP email address. Folks, if you've got commercials that you've created, 15 or 30 seconds that you'd like to share with us, we'd like to play them. If you've got money bombs coming up, let us know. We'll put them on the Chiron. We'll share them with the Libertarian Planet. Help us support your valiant efforts to bring freedom to all of our communities, to bring freedom back to us in our lifetime. Have a great weekend. We'll hopefully see you Monday night. Good night.